Now let's talk about the final keyword. The final keyword in Java has many meanings. The easiest way to understand this label is that it means once defined, do not change this. For example, a final Java class prevents a class from being subclassed. And I think this is very straightforward. It's like pretty safe to assume that for this example, the class T-Rex would be a final class because we're not going to be able to modify it. Dinosaurs are extinct. If we use the final keyword in a method, the method cannot be overwritten when a class is subclassed. Again, the do not modify label is applied. There's a scenario where the do not modify label is slightly different. It's only on the final variables. We may not always want to initialize the variable right away. Maybe we want to wait for the constructor to initialize it. That condition is called a blank final variable. Java allows you to define a class within another class, and it's called a nested class. Nested classes that are declared static are called static nested classes. Who would know? Non-static nested classes are called inner classes. Any instance of the inner class can exist only within an instance of an outer class and has direct. An instance of an inner class can exist only within an instance of an outer class, and it has direct access to the methods and fields of its enclosing instance, even if they are declared private. A nested class does not have access to other members of the enclosing class. These classes are really useful when we want to have increased encapsulation and help with maintainability, because you can expose only a few elements and have a bigger class inside of it that doesn't want to expose any of that even to the documentation. That's the difference between doing it as a private versus public, because sometimes you just want to hide some implementation details where it doesn't matter to the user, but you don't want those things to be shown on auto-generated documentation or things like that. So you kind of can hide the entire implementation or the methods that you're going to be calling within your own class, even from people to be able to see them. Java is exceptional at exception handling. Whenever we need to catch an exception, we need to either surround the exception generating code by a try-catch block, or put the throws keyword in the declaration of the function where that exception is thrown or living. If we do either of those things, then the exception is considered to be handled. The popularity of the class string as a wrapper around a char array with a few convenience functions attached to it made the developers of Java realize the utility of objects wrapping primitives. The good news is that they are easy to remember, as they are mostly named the same as the primitive, but with a capital letter as a differentiator. For example, float is named float, integer, int, long, long, double, double, etc. Another cool convenient thing is that Java performs conversions between primitives and these objects automatically through a process named autoboxing and auto-unboxing. Let's look at some examples. We can do long, which is the built-in class. Long equals 1000L. Long, my long. Not only that, we can do my long plus plus. So we can run it, and now we're gonna get 1001, which is 1000 plus 1. But you can see here that I didn't have to do long, my long. It's not like we had to do new long 1000. We just converted it directly. I mean, this is another way of doing it, but we just converted it directly and then reconverted it back to long, increased it, and reassigned it to my long. So it's really, the boxing and unboxing is very transparent for dealing with this kind of objects. So some of these classes actually have like really cool, interesting, popular methods, and this is where I want to talk about the API to illustrate how to use the Java API and how to navigate that to understand what is available for these classes. So if I go into my browser and I type Java long, the API is going to be the first result on your favorite search engine. Here, the top class, the upper part is just a field summary, which is going to tell you what are the fields available that you can access. So for example, max value, I can do here long dot max, my long dot max value. and that essentially will represent the biggest value that I can assign to my long value, a really long value. The other thing is that constructor summary, how many constructors we've got. Either we can parse a string or a long value. So if I was going to do something like this, now I can experiment that I can new long, and it's just essentially parsing a string directly into the correct value. And here there's a method summary of all the public things that you can access. So I can parse a long from a string, I can reverse it, I can do all sorts of things. A lot of these are static, so it's really convenient to, like, I can convert. If we just did 2, we're gonna get 1 0. If we did 6, yeah, I was suspecting why. Then it's gonna do 1 10, etc. So there's all these methods, and then also further down, if I click any of these guys, it's gonna tell me in a longer detail what is each parameter, what it returns, since what version of Java is around. And not only that, I get to see also what is the hierarchy of objects. So long inherits from object, and then another class called number, and then it goes into long. And then it's using other interfaces just to make sure that it complies with comparable and serializable. One important thing to know is, like, what are from all these built-in packages, you can go into all classes here, and you can understand what is everything that was shipped in Java. But it's difficult to navigate it just by going into the alphabetical thing. So you can go into the tree view, and then you can see, okay, what inherits from object, what are the interfaces, the interface hierarchy, and that is just for this package of Java lang. But if I go into the Java API, you can see that there's all the packages on this side, all the classes listed here, and here is just an intro to each one of the packages. So for example, the Java util package contains the collections, frameworks, legacy collection, event model, date, time, facilities, internationalization, and we can see, like, all sorts of encryption, Java Enterprise Java SQL stuff. The JavaX is Java extension package. So there's a lot of things, but whatever is actually included in the language, whenever you're using it, is the lang package. Every class is imported, so it has the class. It has all these wrapper classes, string, system. That's why when we do system.out.println, we don't need to import anything because Java lang is imported. This is basically like doing something like this: import Java lang star, and that's essentially the declaration that it's added by the compiler at the very beginning. So we don't need to include that. But yeah, this is how you navigate the class, and you can go and, like, see, for example, the string class, what is inside of the class. Again, we go into the field summary. What are the fields, the constructors that you can use? String has a bunch, and the methods. And if any of those are static, it will also essentially tell you there. And again, the details. So this is really useful thing to know and understand how to navigate it and how to get to it. It's definitely something that to keep in mind. Notified about these videos as soon as I upload them. Just subscribe to this channel.